Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this month's Google Hangout here at Business Training Made Simple. My name's Sarah Kerrigan, I'm part of the Made Simple group here, and today I'm joined by a surprise guest speaker, Danny Beaumont.
Hi, Danny. Nice to meet you.
Good, nice to meet you, thanks for being here. So today, Danny is going to be taking us through how to set up and manage your groups on LinkedIn. Danny's a lead generation expert, so you're in good hands. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to transfer over to the slides and Danny will take us through that. And the Hangout's going to be about half an hour, just so you know. Please do, any questions you have throughout, just fill in the question and answer form that you'll see on the Hangout, or you can also tweet us. It's at GetTrainedUK, or use the hashtag GetTrainedUK as well. Okay, so now we're just going to swap over to the slides and we'll get started. Okay, so Danny, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the key steps you need to know about in terms of setting up your group on LinkedIn and really making it work for you and for your business. So without further ado, let's look at why you'd want to set up a LinkedIn group. Now, you set up a LinkedIn group for a few reasons. The first thing is LinkedIn groups are a great place where you can go and network with other businesses. If you have a group, let's just say, for example, you're an accountant and you set up a group called, helping small businesses make a profit. That's a group which you can invite small businesses to. You've got a captive audience there where you can talk to those businesses, help them with their problems, and it obviously gives you a lot of exposure. So it's a great place to actually network with your target customers. The next thing that you need to be aware of is it's also a great place for existing customers. What many businesses do is they set up LinkedIn groups as a place to give additional support. So for example, you might be, again, let's just take professional services. Let's just say you are an accountancy firm and your existing customers can go onto your LinkedIn group, and what happens is you will post discussions every time there is a change in the tax law or there's a budget. You can use that group as a place to keep your members up to date with what's going on and interact with them. And I think it's really worth knowing a statistic here about groups. Group members generally on LinkedIn, this is a well-known statistic, that group members, people who are active on groups, get 4 times as many profile views as people who are not active on groups. So obviously, if you set up a group for your customers, you set up a group for potential customers, you're active on that group, you are giving yourself a large amount of publicity. So just to summarize, you really need to set up a group because you need to have...
Sorry, slight interruption there. Carry on, Danny. Sorry, everyone.
But the reason you need to set up a group, just to summarize, is it's a place where you can really create a place for your target audience. It's a place where you can get much more visibility because you're regularly interacting with them. There's another thing which I didn't mention. It's also a place which you can create to actually improve your own knowledge. If you're a business and you want to know more about your target audience, a LinkedIn group is actually a great way to do market research because you can attract your audience and you can ask them questions. I work with one client who runs a GP practice. It's a place where he can basically invite GP practice managers to talk about the problems that they have with their patients and their surgeries. So it can work for your business for all sorts of different reasons. Now, if you decide that you want to go ahead and set up a group, the thing you need to do is have really clear objectives. Setting up a LinkedIn group is something that will take up time. It doesn't cost any money, but it does take time. And what you need to be very clear in your mind about when you set up a group is, what is the main purpose of that group, right? Is it a place, for example, if you're a university, it might be setting up a group not for profit, but a place where your alumni can go and network with each other. So it might be a service you want to provide. Is it a place where you want to provide is it a place where you want to help existing customers? So you want to add value by having a place where you can send them to answer questions. Is it objective to help grow your business? So you're going to invite potential customers there and then you can interact with them. So you need to really determine what is your group there for? What do you define as success for that group? And if you go in with that clear idea of what your objectives are, you're going to have a lot more success. I think part of your objectives also have to be is growth objectives. What are you going to do to grow your group? I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in this webinar. So we've talked a bit about why you should be setting up a group. We've also talked about why you need to have objectives. But let's talk also about what sort of group you want to set up in terms of, is there another group that exists? A lot of groups that suddenly I've looked at are quite similar to each other. And one of the things you want to avoid doing is setting up a group to serve a particular purpose when there is a group out there that already does that. Very often, let's just say, for example, you're a group that advises on emerging markets. You want to advise customers, for example, who are interested in doing business in, say, Brazil, South America, on what they need to do. So before you set up your own group, just check, is there an existing group that does that already? Because if there is an existing group that does that already, it would probably be easier for you to actually be active in that group and engage with other members. So it's a very easy way to do that. To check whether there is a group similar to yours, you can go onto the top of your LinkedIn search bar, and there is a groups option. And then what you do is you put in the keywords to try and see if there is a group similar to yours. So what you can see in the screenshot is that I've searched here for managing consultant, and there's a whole selection of groups that have come up in relation to that. You'll also see that you can, on the left-hand side of the screen, you can actually refine your search. So, to sort of try and find the right group. You can also see, out of interest, there's a bit of market research that you can do here, is you can see where your own LinkedIn connections are going to. Where are your first and second level connections and third level connections going to for different information? Now, when you search for LinkedIn groups, not only can you look up groups, but actually LinkedIn has quite a cool feature that when you look up a group, LinkedIn, if you look at the group summary at the bottom of the page, LinkedIn will tell you about other similar groups. So it really enables you to do a lot of background research to see if there is a group similar to yours. So check out the groups. Also check out who are members of those groups. Are there existing clients who are members of those groups? So once you have really established if there is, whether there is or isn't a similar group to yours, you can then decide how yours will differ. So for example, it might be, let's just talk about emerging markets as this example. If you have found a group that maybe talks about that, how is your group going to be different? So think about what is the unique angle of your group. When people go into a group, the key is the title of your group, right? A lot of people will search groups, and they'll see the name, and the name will be what will attract them. So make sure, when you're thinking about your group having a USP, think about how in 4 or 5 words maximum, you can spell out how that group will help your members. Okay? So let me just talk about one of the things you will have noticed on LinkedIn. You've got 2 sorts of groups. You've got open groups and you've got closed groups. And I know there's a lot of confusion among a lot of LinkedIn members. What is the difference between the 2? So what I would like to just talk to you about is why they exist. What is the difference? Now, the reason you would set up a LinkedIn closed group is a closed group is, as you can see, here's a group called Facilities Management Professionals. It's not a group I'm a member of, and yet I can actually see the discussions. I can actually start a discussion. Now, the advantage of an open group is if you can actually go into the group and you can actually see all the discussions taking place on that group, it's a lot more attractive, isn't it? Initially, you think about it, right? When you go to a party, you go to a social, why would you hang around at that party or social event? You'd hang around because you'd like to see if there's any action there. Who's actually in the party? Who's talking? What's going on? So when there's an open group, you can actually nose around a bit, look at the activity, and decide if it's the right group for you. If it's a closed group, there's a lot more of a mystery as to whether that is the right sort of group. You can see who are members. You can also see statistics on how active the group is, but you can't actually see the quality of the discussions. And what makes or breaks a group are the quality of those discussions. So if you've got good discussions in those groups, having an open group is essential. If you have a group that's open, it will grow a lot faster. There are some safeguards for an open group. So for example, you can block people. If you see people joining the group and spamming, you can block them. You can also have a system in place where, for example, people join the group, they can start posting discussions, but until they're a proper member of that open group, there'll be restrictions to what they can and can't do. So there are still some controls. Now, at the same time, there are clearly going to be times when you will set up a closed group. And this is where, going back to what I said earlier, you might set up a group that's intended for alumni of a university. It's intended for your existing customers. Now, you may be offering features and benefits to those customers. Now, you may not want to offer those to the public, and you don't want anybody and anyone joining your group. So for that reason, you will keep your group closed because it's there for a certain defined audience, and that the main priority is servicing a specific audience and not about growth. So, the downside of an open group is, yes, an open group will join very fast, but there's an issue of quality control. You may not be attracting the exact members that you want. So you really need to think about what is your main purpose. Is your main purpose to use your group for marketing your business, growing your business? An open group might be much more appropriate. Or is it more about looking after an existing audience, existing customers, in which case it might be much, much more relevant to have a closed group. So let's talk a little bit about setting up a LinkedIn group. As I said earlier, you don't have to, there's no charge of setting up a group. The only cost is your time. And there is a little bit of time involved in setting up a group. And you need to, if you're going to do it, you need to do it properly. I would suggest setting aside really an hour, half an hour, just to get some of these things right. So firstly, when you go to the link on LinkedIn menu, there is a groups menu. And if you go into groups, you'll see an option there to set up your own group. So some of the things you need to be doing to start off with is you need to be deciding on the right name for the group. So you can see in this example, social media for business-to-business sales. There's 7 words. Certainly wouldn't get it longer than that if possible. But so you need to get the name right for your group, so it's very clear. The next thing you need to do is have a logo. Now, a logo is really, really important. If your group doesn't have a logo, it just doesn't have as much impact. The logos that you can use can't be very large. They can only be 100 pixels, up to 100 pixels in size. So it needs to be some sort of logo that's easy to identify. But having the right logo creates intrigue. People see an interesting looking image, they think, oh, what's all that about? So think quite carefully about the imagery you're going to use for the logo of your group. There's then a description you can create. So if somebody wants to look up your group, they can actually find out what it's about. A lot of members, certainly if it's a closed group, and you look up a group, that's the first thing people will see. They'll see the name, they'll see the description of your group, and then they'll see who the members are. If it's an open group, the description isn't the first thing people see. People see the discussions. Nonetheless, you should ensure you have a description for your group because it's not going to have credibility if people don't see a description. So we talked so far about setting up a group in terms of the name of the group. We talked about the description. We talked about the logo. What I want to do now is just talk about some of the other steps you need to take to get the group right. There's various settings to do with privacy. You can control, for example, if you're concerned about inappropriate content. You can choose, for example, if somebody posts a discussion or somebody posts comments, do those have to be approved by the moderator first before they're published? So there's various privacy settings which you need to get right. You can see down the left-hand side there's something called group settings. Another thing I would recommend setting up is rules. Again, if you look down the left-hand side, you can see their rules. What rules do is it's basically some housekeeping in terms of what is and isn't acceptable in the group. Again, I would recommend those. You want to ensure that people who come to your group, it's very clear to them what you can and can't do. And different group members might have different considerations. I mean, some group members, for example, frown upon linking to any external websites. Some group owners are very, very strict about anything that's promotional. So if there are things you are particularly concerned about, you can spell those out there. Then if there is any group member you have to, if you like, discipline or wrap around the knuckles, you can do that and point them to your rules. So we've talked about the setting up a group in terms of your title, your description. We've talked about rules. We've talked about settings. And then we need to talk about, there's something called templates. Now, what templates are things that you set up. These are basically for emails that go out to members or people who want to be members. When you will have noticed this sometimes, when you apply to join a LinkedIn group, you'll sometimes get an automated message that tells you that your application has been received to join a group, or if you've been approved to join a group. So what you can do is you can actually determine what is going to be said on the messages that go out to people who are applying to be members, or people who've been approved as members. You can also create messages for members who've been blocked, for example. So these again are things that you may want to look at setting up. And then we've got the most important thing of all, which is inviting people. Now, this is where I would actually say to you, before inviting people, make sure you've got some content on your group. There is nothing more off-putting than being invited to join a group that not only doesn't have any members, but also doesn't have any content. And as I said earlier, people will judge your group on the basis of whether the content's are any good. So what I'm going to start off with is post some relevant discussions. We're going to talk about in a second what discussions are relevant, but post some discussions and then and only then start inviting people. Now, to begin with, in order to get a group active, what I would actually do is put together some influencers. I put together, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I'll put together a group of friends, supporters, people who work in your business, who are behind your group, who support your group, and will help it get up and running. As you know, sometimes to get something up and running, you need to have a few people who are really vocal, who will go into your group and take part in discussions. And then what you can do is, once you've got this small sample of people involved, you can grow it to a wider audience. So let's talk a little bit about growing your group and how to do that. So growing your group has to be said, growing your group takes persistence and it takes time. There's a bit of a chicken and egg situation that when your group initially is under 100 members, people will sort of look at that and say, well, there are not so many people in this group, it's not such a big group. Obviously, you're in a chicken and egg situation, because to get more people participating, you need to grow your group in the first place. So my first tip was, as I said earlier, make sure you've got content on there so people want to take part. The other thing I would do is I'd focus on people who are supporters of your business. Think about people who are your best customers, think about friends who support you in your business, think about colleagues in your business. Get those people first to be active in your group, and actually send out some personal invitations to those people by email with a personal invite to say to them, look, I've just set up this group. And I've just posted a discussion on this topic. I'd love to have your input as an influencer on that topic, or as someone whose opinion I value. So you can do that. The other thing you can do is on LinkedIn, you've got the ability to send out invitations. So you can see on the screen that I've shown here, you've got a little in symbol that's on the middle of the page. That's your LinkedIn address book. And what you can do is you can actually select members that you want to invite, and then click the send invitations. So what I would advise you to do is to go through key members in your LinkedIn network and invite them to join your group. What you can also do is, as well as just sending invitations, there's something else that I would do that's really, really powerful. And that is that I would continue to, once you've got some discussions going up that are up and running, I would actually promote those discussions. So one of the things you can do on LinkedIn is you can, when you post a discussion, you can share that discussion. So take discussions you've posted, share them on your status updates, or send out a round robin email to your customers and say, look, we've posted, let's just say, for example, the government has just announced the budget, right? So everyone's talking about the budget, businesses are talking about the budget, and you're an accountancy firm. I would send an email to your clients and say, look, do you have any questions about the budget? Why not join our LinkedIn group and find out everything you need to know about how it will affect your business? And what you do is you give people a link to the discussion, and you invite them to join the discussion. And that is really what makes the group grow. It's the quality of your discussions. So don't just invite people to your group. You need to actually have a story to tell when you're creating a group, right? Why should people join your group just because you've got a group? People will say, what they're thinking of is, what's in it for me? So the accountancy example I gave you is perfect. So think about what's in it for me, and why would a customer want to join your group? Well, if there is a discussion you can promote, that is a really great way to get people involved in coming to your discussion and to your group. And that really leads on to my next point, which is understand the pain points of your audience, right? If you're seeking to grow your group, right, your target audience will have a particular problem. So if it's small businesses, it might be about how can I pay less tax? If you're a law firm that specializes in property, It might be, you know, what are the problems that my clients have with their landlords? What are the problems that my clients have with planning permission? Is that something I can talk about? If you are an architect that specialises in office, you know, expanding offices, why not post a discussion for your audience about what the main problems you have with space around your office? But what you need to do is just think about the pain points of your audience, and those are really the discussions you should be posting. The more those pain points are addressed, the more likely it is that your audience will join your group and will participate. And really, that when you're promoting your group and when you're sending out emails to promote your group, it's those pain points that you should focus on. Now, posting on topical things, posting on things that address, on discussions that address your audience's pain points are great, but it's not just about that, it's about frequency. What I see an awful lot with group members is they participate, you know, they post a discussion maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. If you want to grab your audience's attention, you really have to be frequent in how you post, right? It needs to, when people look at your group, they want to see if it's an active group. If they just see that it's a sleepy group with the occasional conversation posted on the odd week, people think, there's nothing going on here, there's nothing to talk about. What you should see with your groups is to get a group active, don't let it fall just on your shoulders. Have a team of people who are actually growing the group. So maybe have a core team of 1 or 2 or 3 of you posting different discussions on different times of the week. And what I would also encourage you is to all be active in each other's discussions. Because if you want your wider audience to be involved, you have to be involved yourselves. But it is such a plus. If you see a group which has got regular discussions posted by different people with lots of people commenting, it makes such a difference to how potential members will perceive your group. Now, when you are thinking about what to post about, one of the things I recommend is having something called a content plan. Very often, where LinkedIn group owners struggle is they think, well, what can I talk about? I don't know what to talk about. Well, if you actually sit down with your team, your marketing team, even, you know, a couple of other friends, whoever it is, to actually just have a brainstorm. This is my audience. What are the things that really bug my audience? What are the problems that my audience needs solved? And then think about, well, how can we post that as a discussion that will help them? And it's very hard to sometimes brainstorm by yourself, but if you can sit with a couple of other group members and brainstorm with them, you'll come up with some great ideas for your group. Now, what I sometimes recommend doing is, I talked about how you should get your team and your business to participate with your groups. But the other thing I would do is actually get what I call influencers involved in the discussion. Now, what I've done here is I have posted an example of a discussion. This is a LinkedIn group for GPs, all right? And it's all about problems that GPs face with their surgeries. Now, what this particular group have done is they've invited a couple of GPs or practice managers to actually participate in the discussion. Now, the reason they've done that is that they know that the GPs in question have good knowledge of this topic, but they also will be of interest to them. Now, it makes it much, much more useful discussion, because looking at this topic here, this is about co-payment, which is something that GPs talk about. If I'm a GP practice manager, or if I work in a surgery, this is something I'm going to want to know about. So if this is a group that is actually catering for GPs, and I have discussions where they're experts offering their opinions and their advice, and there are people participating, it's going to make me want to read this discussion. It's going to make me want to participate in this discussion. So think about actually going out and engaging with, I talked a bit about earlier about who are your customers, who are your top customers who are influential, or think about strategic partners you work with who can also help you to grow your group. So it might be there are businesses that you work in tandem with, who you work in very close partnership with, who could also be involved in your group. Now, this is a mistake a lot of group owners make. They're great at posting discussions, but then they don't come back to people who post comments. So you kind of think, great, I did really well this week, I posted the discussion, and look at all the comments I've got. Well, if you want your comments to carry on growing, you need to actually keep responding to what people are saying. You should all be familiar with Facebook and what happens with Facebook. When you post something on Facebook, you comment, then a friend comments, and you comment, then a friend comments. Well, it's just the same with LinkedIn. To actually get the LinkedIn group really, really growing, really active, you need to actually comment on discussions posted on your group. You need to respond to your audience. If people see that you're not responsive, if people are just posting and you're not responding, that's going to kill your group. So think about being really, really looking at what people are saying. One of the settings that you have with a LinkedIn group is the ability to actually moderate. You've got this amazing ability to moderate, but what LinkedIn will do is it will notify you when people have commented. So you get these email notifications, make sure you respond. And if you're going to respond, don't leave it for 2 or 3 days. Respond at the very least within the same day, so people can see that you're there and you're active. Now, not only should you stay on top of comments, you also need to stay on top of what I call inappropriate content. There are going to be people, especially if you've got an open group, there are going to be people who will see an open group as an invitation to promote their business. And if there's too much promotional stuff, you could end up having a group that's actually there. It actually exists for people who are just promoting their businesses. And then all you will have on your group are discussions with promotions. What I'll do, obviously, is we'll put off anyone from actually joining your group. We'll certainly put off anybody from commenting on any discussion. So what you need to do is, if you see any content, you need to be checking your discussions once a day, just to see if there is anything promotional. And if necessary, what you can do is stuff that's promotional can be moved to a section of your group called promotions. You can also directly speak to a group member who is maybe posting that inappropriate content, and you can rattle them on the knuckles. You can remove them if necessary, and deal with it however. But the main thing is you need to be checking on a regular basis that the content on your group is not being hijacked by people who are really using it for their own purposes. Now, you have a great feature with LinkedIn that's worth knowing about. Again, this is going to really help you to grow your group. And this is about sending out announcements. You have the ability on LinkedIn to send out a weekly announcement to your members. It's a text-only message where you can determine the subject and you can determine the message. Now, the reason this is great is that if you've got a whole load of members, you've got the ability to obviously send an email to each of them. You're right. While they may not be going onto your group that frequently, they will be going onto their inbox. So it is a really easy way of getting to your members. And what I would suggest doing is, look through your discussions. Look at what is the discussion of the week. Think about what discussion in your group is really useful, really helpful to your members, and put a message out there about the discussion, encouraging them to join. But the announcement is the really important way of ensuring that your members are engaged. The most important thing is the subject line. That is what will determine whether people read that message. Think about whether the subject is relevant to your audience. Think about how that addresses their pain points. Okay, so what I want to do is just wrap up and just to conclude what we have looked at today. So very quickly, if you're going to set up a group, we've talked about why you should be setting up a LinkedIn group. Make sure you've got very clear objectives about what it's there for. Ensure you have a unique selling proposition, and that means you actually need to do some homework. You need to actually look and search around, see what other LinkedIn groups are out there, and make sure that your group is very clearly differentiates itself from other groups. Know about your audience pain points. What that means is, in order for your LinkedIn group to be successful, what is the thing that really troubles your customers or your members? What are the things that they're really concerned about? Make sure that those things that they're concerned about are addressed in the discussions. Engage with your participants. By engaging, I mean that when people post comments, actually reply to those comments. Don't let that conversation stagnate. The other thing I mean about engaging is, if you have somebody on your LinkedIn group who is somebody you don't know, and I didn't cover this in the webinar, but you actually have the ability to directly message people in your group. You also have the ability to connect with them. So if somebody who's a member of your group discusses a problem they're having, which you think maybe your business can solve, it's an opportunity for you to actually talk to them. Use that facility that your group has. Okay, the next point is, have a strategy for growing your audience. There's no point in saying, well, I want to join a LinkedIn group, I want to create a group, I'm going to send out some invitations. You actually have to think about, how am I going to grow this group? What discussions am I going to post that are going to be of interest to my audience? Who am I going to invite to join my group who I know are going to participate? Who am I going to send? Who do I think this is going to be of interest to? What are the key things I can talk about that will get them wanting to join my group? The final thing I want to talk about is moderating. If you're not careful, and if you've got an open group, very quickly it becomes the go-to place for spammers. So make sure that you check your group once a day. Make sure that there are no spammers present. Make sure that there are no people posting jobs. If they do, they post them in the right place. or if necessary, you have to wrap them on the knuckles. So that is a summary of how to set up a group, how to promote a group, how to grow a group. And I'll be very happy to take any questions that you have.
Lovely, thank you, Danny. That was very interesting. Right, so a few questions have come in and we've got a little bit of time to take them. So the first one is it worth having a group on LinkedIn as well as Facebook or Google+, etc.? Which one would you personally believe to be the best?
I think you've got to do a little bit of research about where your audience are. I think that, for example, I have a friend who she runs a group on Facebook, and it's all to do with being prudent with your finances, and it's meant for personal. It's really meant for individuals. A lot of the people that she's targeting are not on LinkedIn. So I think you do really just do research. I'm going to be very general here. LinkedIn is more to do with business to business. Facebook is more to do with consumers. There are some exceptions to the rule, but what I would say is think about who your audience are and then do a bit of research about where they go. Great,
thank you. So the next one, should your group title be keyword enabled?
Should it be keyword enabled? I think the
people searching, I guess.
I think yes, I think so. For example, one of our customers has the case study I used in this webinar. We have a customer who has a group for GP practice managers. Now it's got the word NHS in it because obviously it's for people who are in the NHS. So yes, I think keywords is relevant.
Okay. Now I know you did cover this one, but maybe just again briefly if they missed it. How often should you post on your groups, and more importantly, should you be linking to articles or should you just be asking questions? I guess a mix is best, really. But you don't want
I think a mix is best. In terms of posting frequency, I think the minimum is once a week. Ideally, at least twice a week, 3 times a week if you can. I think sometimes people like. I think there's actually people are over reliant on articles. I think very often just go straight into the discussion that you want to talk about. Sometimes if you are linking, you're taking people to another website and taking people away from discussion. I think about if there's a context. So for example, the GP surgery example I used, they posted a discussion about how easy do you find it to see your doctor, which we all know is a problem. There was a link in that discussion to an article about how difficult it is to see your GP. Now obviously that was relevant to the discussion. So really just think about relevance. If there isn't an article in question, don't worry about it. If you think the article is going to aid your discussion, that's fine. What you shouldn't do is just be using the links as a blatant way to link to, to link to your business and also to promote
content.
it.
Yeah, I know it definitely puts me off personally when I see a group and it's just article after article. And there's no questions. And again, it's just always pushing you away from the group, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what they're doing. I mean, the discussion should really say. A discussion is really about, isn't it? I'm putting an idea out there, and I'm saying to you, what do you think?
Yeah.
But if I'm linking to something, all I'm doing is it's monotone. It's just me talking, and no one's participating.
Pushing your blog out. Yeah. There was another one. Oh yes. Can you boost group content? So now you can boost, obviously, content within LinkedIn. Can you boost your group content?
When you say boost, what do you mean?
Sponsor, I presume they mean. So, ads. You can do LinkedIn ads and sponsor LinkedIn content.
You can point, you can use ads to point people to your group. Yeah, I'm not aware of sponsored update. I know you can sponsor a status update on your company page. I'm not aware that you can do it with your group.
Okay.
However, there may be the LinkedIn have introduced changes. They always do.
Yeah.
So it's worth, I would say we could probably, if there is, if there are, we can probably post on a blog answer for you.
Yeah. And you did say that you can share discussions, can't you, from the group?
Very easy to share discussions. Yeah.
Okay. Lovely. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. A few things I'm just going to go through very briefly. At the moment, all of our courses are £99 until the end of November. So if you are thinking on coming on, getting some social media training or coming on a course, then this month is the time to do it. Danny will actually be running our next LinkedIn course. If you're interested in that, just go to our website, businesstrainingmadesimple.co.uk. You can see all of our courses on there. Our next Google Hangout will be on Friday the 5th of December, and that's going to be planning and managing a creative social media campaign end to end. So what we're going to be looking at in there is just going through from start to finish what you need to be thinking about and what you need to be planning about when you're doing your social media campaigns. And we're actually going to be looking at a campaign that the Made Simple group did not long ago as a case study, the Shoestap campaign that we did when we were rebranding. So that'll be useful to you. And talking of campaigns, at the moment we have a Movember campaign. So do please help us help Movember. We're asking all of our customers to send in a picture of their moustaches, or if you don't have a moustache, ladies, do not fear. You just go to our blog, that you can see the URL there, and you can actually print out and cut out a fake moustache that we've provided you with. You can either email them us or post it on our social media channels with those hashtags. And for every picture we receive, we will donate £1 to Movember. So Danny, get snapping. Okay, thank you for listening, everybody. We'll just do a quick goodbye to you. There we are. Thank you for listening. Bye. See you next time.
See you soon.